Hey, Reanimated fans, this is episode 68 of our fair podcast about zombies and undead stuff. My name is Stuart Tiffin. I am on the west coast of the United States, and joining me from the east side is H.A. Conrad. What's going on? Hey.
Hey, you're really peppy today.
You know, sometimes you got to bring the pep.
What's causing your peppiness?
I don't know. Good night's sleep. Got like 9 hours of sleep.
Look at that.
Look at that. Kind of doesn't happen that often.
I don't know that that's happened to me in the last year, honestly.
It's kind of brought on by a state of exhaustion where you end up going to bed at like 9 o'clock because you're just wiped out from, stuff. And so then you end up sleeping later. Or you sleep longer, rather, because you still have to get up early. And I'm speaking completely, as a parent of a young child, which that does kind of drive my schedule a little bit at this point.
I can see that. Well, I'm glad you're well rested and peppy.
Thank you. I'm glad that you're glad. And I'm also glad that Squarespace is sponsoring this podcast. Thanks, Squarespace. They're the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create your own website. I think their slogan is now, "Build it beautiful."
Yes.
Have you heard that around the internet?
I have heard it around.
And you know what? It's a good slogan for them to have because they give you a lot of good templates. You can build your website in the image that you wish to build it because they offer you a lot of customization.
Much like Pinocchio. You can build your own Pinocchio.
How do you... I'm just trying to figure out if you've become like a master puppet maker from Italy.
No, I'm pulling out the Pygmalion references here. You know, how you build it in the image that you want it to be. And then it comes to life and kills you. Or, no. That's
Pygmalion, what was the name of the statue he built? It was a lady.
Yeah, it was called Pygmalion, wasn't it?
Or
was that the creator?
Was the name of the guy who made the statue. Either way, not Giuseppe, or what was Pinocchio's dad's name?
Geppetto.
Yeah, but I think you're mixing your metaphors either way.
Maybe, but it's still fun. Anyway, yes, Squarespace is amazing.
Squarespace, it's amazing. Don't listen to us. Just go to squarespace.com and get a website. And if you do so and it's your first time, you can use our offer code ZOMBIE and you'll get 10% off and you won't regret it.
Nope. And it's very easy to use and maintain. So thank you again, Squarespace. You're the best.
You're the best. Anyway, today we're talking about iZombie, the television show. If you heard our last episode, we talked about iZombie, the graphic novel, Volume 1. And here today we'll be talking about the pilot of this show. And we're going to be talking about news. We've got a few news events happening around the world in the world of strange ailments and zombie stuff and weaponry. Wow, quite a mixed bag of news this week.
Yes, it is. So you found a little story about this village in Kazakhstan where the denizens of this town are just randomly falling asleep, and
for weeks at a time.
And during just random periods of time. So not just when they're at home or just walking around, when they're driving or on motorcycles, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
So, and even more terrifying is that they have not figured out what is causing this, so that they do have some suspicions. This is a town I would probably move away from pretty quickly, not only because I would not want to fall asleep at the drop of a hat, but also because I would be afraid of being taken out by a motorcycle or some other one of my neighbors having a similar incident. Does not sound like a good place to be generally.
Typically, you don't want to be around a bunch of people driving while they're asleep. Well, some people might think that it's because of an abandoned uranium mine in the town area that might be causing this ailment. But what's kind of the most baffling is that nobody seems to... Do you get the impression from this article, HA, that there's like a big government effort to find out why this town is falling asleep?
Not really. And it seems as if they've given several, I would say, very general ideas. And one of the things that did come up was that the carbon monoxide levels in the town are much higher than you normally find. Yet still wouldn't cause that much of a problem. And I'm like, yeah, I just think I would probably leave this town. Maybe it's the government causing it. Who knows? But it seems totally sketchy, and the basis of possibly a horror flick in the future. But I would definitely get out of there. And it's kind of interesting how nonchalantly the citizens are talking about it. They don't seem to be as concerned, or at least based upon this article, which who knows. They don't seem to be as concerned as you would normally expect people to be were this happening all the time. And it wasn't, I think there was another town as well where they found that this was happening. Something's going on in Kazakhstan. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's a mystery and definitely kind of creepy. So otherwise, less creepy, but also kind of mysterious is a Wired photo essay. Did you see this?
Yeah, I had seen this photo essay. So there is this photographer that went out and I think, is this related to the other photo essay that happened where the photographer went out to different places around the world and took photos of people with what they ate every day, like all of their calories?
Or was it? Yeah, it was all day. That's right. Yeah, I think this guy is just obsessed with what people eat, and so that's what he takes pictures of.
So what this guy did was, instead of just, he narrowed it down a little bit. So he specifically wanted to see what doomsday preppers would eat following some sort of an event / apocalypse. And it was a little weird. And I'm really happy that one of the people that he talked to was located in Brooklyn. Not really surprised, but okay.
Have you seen the show Doomsday Preppers?
I've seen maybe a couple of episodes. It's not something I follow, but
the New York firefighter is definitely one of the episodes that I saw. And the guy, I mean, it's fairly, yeah, I guess I was a little bit surprised that they had all these people in cities who were prepping. But at the same time, you've admitted that you've got a pretty hefty stock of emergency supplies in your apartment, right?
I wouldn't call it hefty, but I would call it wise, just because of, you never know. But not to the level that some of these people are prepping. The woman, Colleen Bishop, who is a Mormon in Utah, was talking about the fact that Mormons keep a lot of food, and they're supposed to. It's part of the tenets of their religion that they must be prepared.
A year's supply of food.
Right. And actually, if you've ever been to Utah, have you?
Never.
There are specific stores that deal with this. So you go and it's like crazy amounts of, it's like a camping store, except it's definitely more tuned in toward this sort of preparation. So, and for big families too. So you're talking like family size portions of like, I don't know, stuffing and dehydrated cranberries and stuff like that. So, So you have to be serious to go in here and go and buy your dehydrated milk. But, in New York, part of why I just think generally people should have a store on hand is because when any little thing happens in an urban area, people around here go nuts. So everything gets bought out. So it's good to have stuff on hand, like canned goods and things like that, just in case. Mm-hmm. As we saw during the Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy prepping, people just lose their minds. And actually, more recently, there was like 2 inches of snow on the ground this past week, on the first day of spring, no less. And you went to the store and things were all bought out. So it's kind of like, okay, people. And that's not even a big incident. So, yeah.
Yeah. How long do you keep your stock of food? I mean, it all has expiration dates. You just kind of like hold on to it until then eat a bunch of canned food and then buy a bunch of...
No, we work our way through it. It's not like we don't eat this. It's sort of like we have it as part of our general stuff, and we just make sure to have enough on hand so that... I mean, I would say we're definitely... Maybe we have a week's worth if we needed to, but it's not like we're just putting something in the back of the closet and not having it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because that's a waste of food.
Kind of the other way. I don't eat a lot of canned food, so when I bought my stash, as it were, I just got a bunch of canned stuff that has a couple years or a year or two of expiration or of shelf life, and then I don't really eat it, but I guess I will at some point.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite episodes of The Office, the U.S. version of The Office, when Dwight's pickled okra comes due, and he has to just eat giant jugs of okra in the office at his desk because it's time for him to replenish the supply. It's a funny
Well, that's
episode.
why we kind of... I wouldn't say we eat a ton of canned food, but we do try to at least sometimes eat it so that it's not just sitting there on our shelves. So, it's sort of an ongoing thing, but we just make sure we have enough just in case. So, I would say we wouldn't last out like 2 weeks, which is probably not wise, but hey, what are you gonna do? Space is at a premium here in the Big Apple. But yeah, so that's an interesting little thing. So you can go and see this guy's photos of Doomsday Prepper foodies, I suppose. I did like the other person's idea, though, that he would start a vineyard because he'd want to trade in wine because that's something that people would want.
Yeah, use wine as currency. It's not a bad idea.
It isn't. Do you think that beer would be a smarter currency, though? Because I feel like beer is a little bit... Well, I guess wine is maybe less involved. I'm not sure which is easier.
I think it is easier. If you look at like old world ways of making wine in like, say, Romania and Hungary, they basically just take the grapes and put them into an underground, like a amphora almost, like Roman style, bury it for 6 months or something, and then they bring it up and, hey, you got wine.
Yeah, so if you really want...
You've got to do a lot of boiling, and, that uses uses a lot of water. So that uses a lot of other resources that you might want to
hang on to. So,
exactly.
All right, that makes sense. But speaking of the apocalypse, there was a video that was put up, which is of the XM42, which is what is that, you may ask? It is the world's first commercially available flamethrower, and the video is honestly gave me some terrifying moments where I was imagining people actually buying this. Given the news report of this week with the wonderful gentleman who was at the New Orleans airport with Molotov cocktails and a machete and wasp spray. So I was kind of imagining if he had his hands on this baby, and that probably wouldn't be a good thing. So, I don't know. What did you think about it? It seemed a little scary to me.
Sure, it's a little scary. You might notice that California is one of the only 2 states in the country that has a law against flamethrowers, so it's not really on my. It's not going to be on my to-get list. It also doesn't have a price that I see. Oh wait, let me.
Market price, maybe.
From the video, it just seems like it doesn't really have a whole lot of range. I don't know that you want to be that close to this when it's getting fired. It doesn't look super big. I mean, sure, it's a 2-handed weapon. Got to hold on to it with 2 hands. I don't know how long the fuel supply lasts. If it's on like, how many seconds of trigger pull you have to. There's a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. I wouldn't be running out to pick one of these up, even if I could here in the great state of California.
All right. Well, I just hope a lot of people don't pick it up personally. I just see that this is a little bit of a. I think this could be one of the things that ends up in the Darwin Awards at some point. But we'll see. We'll wait to see what happens in Florida, because that's generally where these sort of stories start to crop up. So,
in the FAQ, HA, I want you to just notice that I know you've been having some more snow, I think, or is that just Boston?
We had some snow, not very much, only about 2 inches, yet still it caused people to lose their minds.
Under practical uses for flamethrowers in the FAQ, it does say that clearing snow and or ice are among the things that the XM42 can handle for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I will stick with the good old shovel and snowblower myself. But it's all good. I mean,
Such a square.
I just, the idea of this being out there on the streets is a little terrifying to me because people are dumb. But, other things that are out on the streets right now. It's novelty chocolate for Easter.
So some pretty good reviews on Amazon.
Actually, what I really liked was a lot of the comments after this, more so than the product itself. But this is on Amazon. Yeah. It's a zombie Peter Rabbit chocolate Easter bunny. They have a bunch of interesting Easter bunnies on Amazon. It's it's just terrible. But the comment section and the review section were pretty amazing. So.
Yeah, this is funny. I like gag gifts. I like gag gifts made out of chocolate even more. So if you need something for your loved ones for Easter, I think this might be one way to go. The zombie Peter Rabbit chocolate Easter bunny, available on Amazon.
So what do you know about shrimp zombies?
Apparently very little. Learned about them just today for the first time. They're the worst kind of zombie because they only eat their children.
Right.
I think is probably where I would start.
Yeah, that's the idea behind these.
And they turn white. Like I have to think that in the shrimp world, you're hanging out, you're shrimp colored, which I think is more of like a pink. I mean,
Well,
they change when they're
they
cooked, right?
change
So I
when
don't
they're
even know.
cooked. They're kind of more gray when they're
Yeah, they're gray.
yeah.
That's right. But then they turn like abominable snowman white, and then start eating their children. And that, as a shrimp, I think has to be a terrifying thing to happen in your
Like when you
community.
see your mom shrimp or dad shrimp turning white, you're just like, oh my gosh, not him, not her. And then you have to run away, but you're like a tiny shrimp, so you don't know what to do. It's just terrible.
It's horrifying.
Well, what we're talking about, there was an article about it's a parasite that basically turns the shrimp, it invades them, and they're Irish shrimp, just in time for St. Patrick's Day. After the parasite invades, it turns them that wonderful white color, but it also gives them an insatiable appetite for their young. So they just kind of gobble up all the little baby shrimps, and that's that. I do like how the researchers in this study are stressing that there's no link between this and human cannibalism, which I think was an interesting note. But just out there in the real world for you. They do look pretty terrifying as the little white shrimps.
Yeah, they're scary.
And lastly, going on to something a little bit lighter, we have talked a little bit about some apps that I have tried out. Did you ever try it out, Stuart? The Zombie Run?
Yeah, we talked about this early on in the podcast. We were both running with Zombies Run for a
Zombies
while.
Run. And there is there was just a little article about this, came out a couple weeks ago, and it's a corporate wellness platform, and they beta tested this particular platform, and the idea is that it's a running from zombies motif, so similar to that, except you get to be on teams, and if anybody on your team, like if you fall behind, you get turned into a zombie, and apparently it's a great motivator to not give up your wellness track. But it just seemed kind of funny. And
yeah, I'd like to see more of just reading an article about it is one thing, but I'd like to see how it works. I know that iPhones now have like kind of a step counter built in, and I guess that's what it's using. If it's just on the iPhone platform, or I don't even know if it's like an Android thing or what.
It doesn't really talk that much about it, but it is called the app itself is called A Step Ahead Zombies. So it's the team has to fight against an advancing zombie horde, and how they do this, and you get points by doing things like drinking water or eating vegetables and things like that. And the more points that you get, your team gets players to safe houses. And it's about 6 weeks, the challenge. So I think it'd be kind of fun to look into it.
I'd be cool that if it was just a step counter, but honestly, once you start getting into like now enter how many glasses of water you had. First of all, there's no way to actually tell.
People could lie.
Exactly.
Could lie.
And then you also have to like type all that crap in, and that just it's annoying. I don't really enjoy apps that make you do that kind of stuff. But if it's literally just a passive thing where you're measuring your activity over the course of a day, then that's more. I don't know, because I'm not going to like sit down and be like, okay, zombie app, how many vegetables did I eat today? Because I'm not going to give enough of a shit,
Yeah, maybe. But still, I liked the idea of it, so I just threw it on here. But clearly you won't be using it, because also you don't have a team, because, I think you kind of have to have a buy-in of a group of people to be able to do this well, other than me.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be trying it out, but we'll probably need a few more.
Yeah. So that just about wraps up the news items for today, but I'm really excited to chat with you about our review for this week.
Yeah, so here we go with the first episode of the show iZombie, entitled Airplane Flying Over My House.
Or Pilot.
I watched this twice.
Oh, I did too.
Because the first time I watched it, I didn't think too much of this. And I wanted to watch it again just to be like, well, was I just not paying enough attention, or what happened? Why did I not enjoy this show? And the second time, I tried to pay closer attention. The thing is, I don't feel like a show I shouldn't be so easily distracted from a good television show.
All right.
And,
so give me your reasons.
Both I just feel like the tone doesn't feel right. The light humor is missing the mark, in my opinion. There are some good lines. They've got some good one-liners and some funny monologue, inner monologue type stuff. But I feel like just like completely separate from the graphic novel,
Oh yeah,
which is a whole nother list of problems I have with it. The show I don't think is firing in the right places, and it's just not working for me as like a standalone project.
I had some similar observations, although I felt a little bit more hopeful. Generally, I feel like it can be a little bit easier on a pilot. There were some things that I really liked about this pilot and some things I didn't. I would agree with you. I also had to watch it twice because I was distracted as well the first time and, in fact, fell asleep the first time I watched this, which is never really a good sign. But mainly, one of the big things that was bothering me when I first watched this was that it felt very Veronica Mars, which, as you know, I love Veronica Mars, and there's no surprise about some of the sensibility of the show because Rob Thomas is the creator of Veronica Mars, and he's the person who developed this series. And I just felt like they were leaning way too hard on the voiceovers to give exposition. I felt like some of the humor was forced, and I think I think you and I have talked about this before in terms of some pilots. They're trying to put too much into the episode to get people emotionally invested, and instead they overplay their hand. So they're almost trying to cram too much information, and give you the sort of canon about what this series is about, and it makes it feel a little trite. And so I wasn't psyched about that. Some things I really did like. I think that this actress, Rose McIver, who plays the main character Olivia Moore, was really good, but she does feel very Kristen Bell to me. And I liked her. I liked the other medical examiner, Rahul Kohli is the actor who plays Dr. Ravi Chakrabarti, and I liked how they jumped right into the fact that he knows that she's undead and is trying to work things out. It just felt very. I don't like shows that treat the audience as if they're kind of dumb, so they have to spell everything out, and this definitely did a lot of that. But I also feel like there is some promise, and I'm willing to give it more of a chance and see if they get into their stride, so to speak. But that being said, the fact that they called it iZombie, there's really no, other than maybe a general idea about the fact that she's sort of a living zombie and eats the brains and gets the memories, there's really no relationship between this and the graphic novel at all. At least thus far, unless they're going to pull in some of those storylines, which I did find very disappointing. I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt about making her like a medical examiner as opposed to a gravedigger, and taking out some of those elements. None of the names are the same. So they've basically just changed the entire premise of the show. And they've made it into a Veronica Mars / Buffy-esque show, at least from the initial get-go. So I hear you.
The thing is, I've never seen Veronica Mars. I've seen like one episode, and I've never seen Buffy, and so I don't even have like a sentimental attachment. If that's what this is really channeling, if that's the audience that they're trying to recapture,
I think that is
with references like "Is your life like the end of 16 Candles" or "Every Day?" I mean, that's a reference actually for people my age in a way, because that movie was out when I was a little kid. There are references for people who are older. It's on a TV. It's on a network that is skewed much younger. Like it's a show that's probably skewed for teenagers or young, early 20-year-olds. But and it seems to be also trying to go after people who are fond of shows that Rob Thomas has done before. And I feel like it's not hitting on any of those levels. Despite, yeah, because I've got no sentimental attachment to the plucky young detective thing that Veronica Mars had, and I don't even know what Buffy's
well Buffy is kind of like a monster PI. So, so there are a lot of and the way that the writing is. I thought some of the writing was pretty good, but I just feel like it's trying too hard. That was the general feeling I had from it. It's
I didn't really like any of the stuff with her family or her ex-fiance and her situation with how she's depressed because now she's a zombie, and the fact that she, like, from iZombie, the book, where this woman has obviously, like, cut all ties.
Yeah, and I kind of like that.
Her family doesn't even know that she still exists above ground, I assume.
Which makes it more interesting, I think. I don't like the fact that she's interacting with people from her previous life. It's much more interesting to me that, first of all, she's cut ties, but part of why she's cut ties is also because she doesn't really remember that much.
In the graphic novel.
In the graphic novel. So the fact
and in this one, they're just kind of being... First of all, they're all portrayed, except for her ex-fiance, as really annoying, meddlesome people who act like pretend. It doesn't even seem like they actually like her.
No.
But they're going through the motions of what, quote unquote, friendship stuff. Like, oh, we're going to have a potluck night, which is really an intervention, and we're going to kind of talk down to you all the time, even though you had a near-death experience, and we should probably be a lot more supportive.
Other than her and the medical examiner, I don't like any other character. I do like her, though.
Clive Babineau, you're not a fan of him either?
I felt like I like the actor. I don't know if you ever saw the show Breakout Canes. He was really excellent in that. That's the actor Malcolm Goodwin. He was awesome in that, and so I was psyched to see him, but I feel like they're making him okay, let's go explore all this stuff. I'm gonna ask you very few questions about how you got there. And some of those interactions were sort of funny. I just feel like that's gonna get boring pretty quickly unless they beef up his character more. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't like him sort of being this, he's more of the tag-along as opposed to her.
Yeah.
But
at the end of the episode, also just the interaction between her and him after the car chase scene, it's just absurd.
Well, and some of the canon. So she's a zombie, but yet she has some sort of minor, like she has a very slow pulse, like heart beating and stuff like that. But she's also immune to bullets. And then when she gets super excited or angry or pissed or whatever you want to call it, she suddenly gets this adrenaline rush and she's crazy fast and strong, which is apparently it's like an attribute of a zombie or whatever. And maybe more animalistic is with her makeup and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Which I'm like, okay, if that's where you're going to go. But I mean, there's very little horror in this show. There's a little bit of a mystery in terms of how she became what she became, but it's, I feel like they were like, oh, we're going to base it on this graphic novel, but they took out all of to me, the most interesting parts. And they were like, we really miss Veronica Mars, we really miss Buffy, so we're going to try to combine a lot of these things into this one concept. And thus far, it's not totally successful for me.
Yeah.
But again, there were bright moments. There were interesting ideas about what has happened to her life since she became this, or since this happened to her. There's a little bit of the alliance between her and the medical examiner are the best parts of the show, in my opinion. And maybe if they build on that, it can get better. But seriously, they can cut all those family members. Maybe Clyde Babineau can stay, but I just think it needs to go a lot deeper, a lot more quickly for me to watch any more of it. I'm going to give it like a 5-episode limit.
Yeah, I mean, shit, I gave Z Nation like 5 or 6 episodes.
No, you know what I'm saying. Like sometimes shows do need some time, and they figure out what works and what doesn't. And there was promise here, and the writing is really good. I just feel like there's enough creative people involved with the show. You don't need to recreate these other shows. You can still do your own thing and capture those audiences without retreading the same tired. I don't know. And it's not tired. All those things are things I love, but it's just like, be original. And it bothered me a lot. So right at this moment, I wouldn't recommend this yet to anybody, but I also would I will give a further review later on, I would say.
yeah, this is definitely a watch with I don't know, cautious optimism, or not even optimism, cautious cynicism. And we'll have to see if they can get past the first couple episodes. But yeah, I mean, you're saying you love the character of her coworker in the morgue. I don't really particularly like that relationship either. Other than
Oh, come on. He was such a little smartass, which was awesome. And
sure.
You know what made me happy about it is that they don't even pull any punches there. He's figured it out. They don't make you sort of string it along. So at least you know how smart he is. I kind of like that piece of it. But
it's just too easy. It's too easy. And his, yeah, sure, he's like funny and the charming but helpful, but not really. It doesn't feel like very few, if any, of the relationships in this show feel realistic to me. They all feel very television, and they're not being. I just don't feel like they're getting written normally. But honestly, every single person, the way that they relate to one another is just kind of overdone. It feels it doesn't feel realistic. Even with her fiance at the beginning of the show, before she becomes the zombie, the dialogue that's written for them is so heavy-handedly TV.
it is very fast moving, and it is very stylized, is almost what I would say, and stereotypical. And I feel like perhaps they are doing this on purpose. And we may see more of this. We may see the reason why later on. Because I thought the same thing, but then with the second viewing, I said, oh, I kind of see what they're doing with this and why they're doing this, but it's not yet successful in my mind. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, or a lot tongue-in-cheek. And again, reminded a little bit of, especially with the voiceover, a little bit of Zombieland and that kind of a direction, where they're trying to walk that line between silly and horror. So, but there really isn't that much horror, as I said. So
there's not a scare in this show, which is like you might think, the CW, they're not going to do anything like that. But have you seen the 100 or the 100? I think they just call it that.
You know what? Several people have recommended this to me, and I have not yet seen it, including, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, so it is on my list. So I need to check it out.
The 100 isn't scary. It's not a scary show either, but it's brutal. And it's kind of brutal in a funny way, because it has this cast of beautiful young people, but they keep getting crap kicked out of them, and like cut with knives and shot and impaled on spears. And then like for several weeks of episodes, you see their scars kind of fading until they're beautiful again. But it's funny that way. But I think the first season's on Netflix. You should probably give it a shot. It's kept me going back. It's kind of a background show for me now, though. I just kind of keep it on and plow into the second season. I feel like that show is actually quite decent. And if that's the kind of thing that the CW is doing, then based on that, I have higher expectations for what they can do with iZombie and a good showrunner and a good cast. But I'm not convinced that they have all of those things right now.
All right. Well, would you be willing to give this a few more watches, though, in terms of episodes, to see if anything pulls together for you, or are you done?
Like for you and I to talk about going forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could commit to doing a few more, but then I definitely want to be able to have a veto at some point. We might have to have a vote.
Well, that's okay. You made it through many more episodes of Z Nation than I did. I think I only made it into episode 4. So
once they killed off the other guy.
Yeah.
I was just
like,
what are we even doing here?
So iZombie, right now, the jury is out. It is, I would say you're right. I think it's totally focused toward a certain type of audience, and maybe that's what they're going for. It is definitely much more, if you can call it kid-friendly, I think it is a lot more kid-friendly, despite the zombie themes.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a piece of that going on. It is a bit bubblegum pop zombie, if you can call it that. So, and clearly
I don't have a problem with that. And obviously we talked about this. Like I was kind of looking forward to that, but if it was well done, and I'm not sure that. Yeah, I just don't feel that it's being well done yet.
Yeah, let's see what happens. But yeah, for right now, I have to give it a meh review. if that's a review at all. Sorry, a meh rating. That would be a better way to put it.
There it is.
And you would really give it a much more strongly worded negative rating, correct?
I would say a negative first impression, but I'm willing to give it the pilot pass, you know?
Are we done talking about that?
It sounds like it. You know how we don't wax on too long about stuff we don't like. So.
I know. We're mean and to the core and quick. Kill it quickly, I say. So that's it for this week. And what would you like to talk about next week, Stuart?
Well, it sounds like we're going to be talking about episode 2 of iZombie, which we don't know what that's going to be entitled, but I'm sure it'll be something suitably upbeat.
Episode 2.
The second one.
The second one, the one after the pilot. All right, well, until next time then, be well, and I don't know, be peppy, I guess, Stuart.
I feel like my peppiness has ebbed since we started talking about the show. But yeah, so peoples, you can get in touch with us the usual ways on our website at reanimatedpodcast.com, through our email at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, or on the Twitters at reanimatedpcast. And we would definitely welcome your impressions of this show if you're watching along, and let us know.
Yeah, indeed. I definitely want to hear what people have to say about this. And I deliberately stayed away from reviews so that you and I could talk about this without having those reviews sully my opinion.
Yeah.
But I do know, just based on some of the headlines and some of the things people were sending to me, that there are people that feel both positive and negative about it. So I may delve into those now that we've talked about it, and we can discuss next week.
Okay, so until next time.
Ciao.
Bye.